The school had been abandoned for over 10 years. The windows were boarded up, the fence rusted and broken in places, and weeds pushed through the cracks in the asphalt like the ground was trying to swallow the building whole. But sometimes, usually around midnight, the bell still rang. I never believed the stories. Every town has them. The haunted school, the cursed hospital, the field you shouldn't walk through after dark. Urban legends passed from bored teens to even more bored freshmen. But I had my doubts shattered the summer I broke in with 2 friends, Jordan and Cassie. It was supposed to be harmless, dumb fun, a bet we made during a late-night walk. Stay inside the old Ridgeway Elementary for 1 hour. First one out buys breakfast. We came prepared. Flashlights, snacks, even an old Bluetooth speaker to play music. Cassie brought her camera, hoping to get something viral. She always wanted to be famous for something creepy. When we hopped the fence, I noticed something right away. It was too quiet, even for a dead building in a dead part of town. No wind, no bugs, no distant cars. The school just stood there, waiting. The front door was chained, so we found a broken window in the gym around the back. Jordan went first, laughing as he ducked through. I followed, and Cassie last. Inside, the air was thick with dust and something else. Mildew, maybe, or rot. The kind of damp, heavy scent that settles in places no one's breathed in years. Flashlights flicked across bleachers, faded banners, and old gym mats stacked in the corner. Most of it was ruined, but there were still lines on the floor, the school logo barely visible under grime. "Creepy as hell," Jordan muttered, but he was smiling. We moved through the gym and into the main hallway. Lockers lined the walls, some rusted shut, others barely hanging on. Names were scratched into the metal, stickers peeling, graffiti everywhere. Cassie took pictures. The flash lit up the corridor like lightning in a tunnel. That's when we heard it. Ding, ding, ding. 3 bells, sharp, echoing, mechanical. The sound of the old school bell. We froze, flashlights swaying. "Tell me one of you downloaded that sound," I said. "Nope," Jordan whispered. "That was real." We should have left right then. But no, we kept going. That's the thing about fear. It doesn't always make you run. Sometimes it drags you in deeper, makes you want to see. We passed classrooms, most with doors open, desks overturned. One room had paper still stapled to the bulletin boards, warped by water, but still legible. A math test with a smiley face ticker. Cassie started filming on her phone. She panned across the desks, zoomed in on the hallway, and whispered like a YouTube ghost hunter. Then she stopped. "Guys, look." She pointed to the far end of the hall. There was light coming from under one of the classroom doors, flickering, pale yellow. We stepped closer. It was room 204. The plaque next to the door read, "Miss Levin, Grade 4. The door was shut. Behind it, we could hear movement. Not footsteps, more like chairs being dragged. And underneath that, whispering. Jordan stepped forward and tried the knob. Locked. He knocked. The whispering stopped. Then the lights flickered off. Silence. Cassie raised her phone and pressed her ear against the door. I reached to stop her, but she shook her head. "I hear something," she mouthed. Then her eyes widened. She stepped back. "There's someone in there," she whispered. "They just whispered my name." We stood in front of that door, frozen. Cassie was shaking. Jordan tried to laugh it off, a weak, dry chuckle, but no one was buying it. "Maybe it's an echo? Like residual sound or something?" "No," Cassie said, her voice tight. "It said my name, clearly, right next to the door, and it wasn't a kid's voice." We didn't know what to do. Part of me wanted to run. Part of me thought we should kick the door down and see what was inside. But before we could decide, something changed. The light under the door flicked back on. Then the knob started to turn. We backed up slowly, our flashlights aimed at the door. But it didn't open. It just rattled, softly, like someone was testing it from the other side. Then, bang, 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 3 loud knocks from inside. Cassie screamed. Jordan swore and grabbed her hand. Then, silence. We turned and ran. Back through the hallway, past the lockers, through the gym. We scrambled out the broken window and didn't stop running until we were 2 blocks away. Once we caught our breath, Jordan looked back at the school. It was still dark, still quiet. "Dude, what the hell was that?" I said. "I don't know, but I don't think it wanted us there." Cassie pulled out her phone. She played it back. Shaky footage of the hallway, the light under the door, her whispering. Then, the sound. Not just knocking. A voice. It whispered her name again, but this time we all heard it. And after that, right before she stopped recording, it said, "You were in my class." We didn't talk much about that night after. We all quietly agreed not to go back. A month later, Cassie moved out of town. She didn't say why. Jordan deleted the video, said it kept re-saving itself after he tried to erase it. And me? I started hearing bells, not at night, during the day, while walking past schools, at work, even in the shower. Always 3 chimes. Ding, ding, ding. Sharp, echoing. I asked around. Ridgeway Elementary was never known for anything dark. No unsolved murders, no buried scandals, just an old school that shut down when enrollment dropped. But one janitor, an old guy who used to work there, told me something weird. He said room 204 was always cold, no matter the season. And every year, during the first week of school, there'd be one desk with a name tag already on it, one no teacher put there. The name, Cassie.
When we first toured the house, the basement door was locked. I remember asking the realtor about it, and she laughed it off. Old door, stuck shut. You know how these pre-war homes are, probably warped for moisture. We didn't think much of it. The rest of the place was perfect. High ceilings, vintage wood floors, a clawfoot bathtub, and a fireplace in the bedroom. My partner, Talia, was in love instantly. So we signed. Moved in within 2 weeks. But that door, it stayed locked. No key, no latch, just a heavy wooden door in the hallway near the kitchen. Talia thought it added mystery. I thought it was annoying. Every time I passed it, I had a strange urge to knock, just to see if someone would knock back. I never did. A few days after we moved in, I noticed something strange. The basement door was cold, like ice cold. Even in the middle of a heat wave, you could stand in the hallway sweating, and when you touched the doorknob, it felt like it had been kept in a freezer. One night, around 3:02 a.m., I got up to get a glass of water. The hallway was dark, but the basement door was open. Just slightly, only a few inches. I stood there, staring, my heart pounding. I didn't open it further. I didn't close it either. I just went back to bed. The next morning, it was shut again. Talia swore she didn't touch it. Eventually, I decided to force it open. Curiosity got the better of me. I bought a crowbar. Talia was at work. I wedged the bar into the crack and started pulling. The wood creaked, groaned, like something old and asleep didn't want to be disturbed. Then, with a loud crack, it gave. Dust fell from the frame. The door swung open. Behind it, stairs. Wooden, narrow, leading into total blackness. I turned on my flashlight Fawn and stepped down. 1 step, 2. It smelled like earth. Not mold. Earth. Like fresh soil. Grave dirt. I went down a few more steps and noticed something weird. The walls weren't concrete. They were dirt. Just packed earth, like someone had dug the basement by hand and never finished. Then I heard something move. It was soft, like fingers dragging across loose dirt. I froze. "Hello?" I called. No response. I turned back to go upstairs, and the door slammed shut above me. Pitch black. My flashlight flickered and died. I ran, barely hitting steps, slammed into the door, pushed, hit, kicked. It opened instantly. Light from the kitchen spilled down the stairs, no resistance, as if it had never closed. I turned around. There was nothing behind me, but the floor had footprints, bare, human, small, leading toward me from the far side of the basement. I didn't tell Talia. Not that night. Not the next day. What would I say? "Oh, hey, just a heads up, there might be something barefoot living under our house in the dirt." She already had trouble sleeping in unfamiliar places. I convinced myself I imagined the prints, or they were old, maybe animal tracks warped by water damage. The rationalizations came easy in daylight. That didn't last. 2 nights later, Talia shook me awake around 3 a.m. Her voice was tight, whispering, "The door's open." I got up and followed her. She wasn't wrong. The basement door was open again, wide this time. Darkness spilled up the stairs like smoke. Neither of us went near it. I shut it, locked it, wedged a chair against the knob. We both slept in the living room that night. The next morning, I noticed something scratched into the hallway floorboards, right in front of the basement door. "No one leaves twice." Talia thought I did it as a prank. I didn't. I tried sanding it away, but the message came back the next day, deeper. We started hearing noises at night, shifting wood, dirt crumbling, and a faint scratching, like something was dragging its nails up the underside of the stairs. One time, I pressed my ear to the door. Something whispered, "Come back." We left the house 2 weeks later. Didn't sell it, didn't explain, just packed a car and left. The final straw came when we found Talia's childhood necklace, the one she lost when she was 6, lying on the basement stairs. We never brought it there, never unpacked it in this house. It was placed neatly with the clasp closed, right on the 3rd step, as if someone wanted us to remember, or to come down and say thank you. Months later, I got an email from the real estate agency. The house was listed again, newly renovated, new paint, new fixtures, all updated. But I noticed one thing in the listing photos. The basement door was sealed. Not with a lock, with bricks. Someone had walled it over completely. In the last photo, the one showing the hallway, if you zoom in close enough, you can just barely make out something behind the glass of the kitchen oven door. A reflection. A face. Covered in dirt. Smiling.
I'm not religious. Never really have been. But I respect places of worship. Churches, temples, synagogues, whatever it is, there's something about them that makes you want to speak softer, move slower. So when I tell you what happened at St. Evangeline's, know that I didn't go there looking for anything. I went because my car broke down. It was late. Rural highway. Phone had 3% battery. And just off the road, maybe a quarter mile into the woods, I saw it. The steeple of a small white church. No cars. No lights. But it looked intact. I figured maybe I could charge my phone inside, or at least get out of the cold. It was unlocked. That should have been my first warning. The air inside was still. Not dusty, just untouched. Like the whole place had been frozen in time. Every pew was aligned. Bibles tucked perfectly into their slots. Candles long burned out, but no cobwebs, no signs of weather damage. It was as if the last sermon had ended 5 minutes ago, and everyone had just vanished. There were no religious symbols, no crosses, no stained glass, no altar art. Just wood, stones, candles, and silence. I sat down in a back pew, pulled out my phone. No signal. I plugged it into a tiny USB battery I had and waited. My breath steamed in the cold air. Then I heard it. Voices. Soft, rhythmic, like a low chant or prayer. I stood and peeked around the edge of the pew. The sound was coming from the front of the church, from behind a closed door near the pulpit. At first, I thought maybe someone else had found shelter here too, but then I remembered there were no other cars, and no lights were on. I stepped quietly down the aisle. The voices were clearer now. Dozens of them. Low, even, chanting like monks or a congregation reciting in unison. But there was something wrong. No words. Just syllables. Like a language that didn't exist. Like a recording being played backwards but slowed down. And underneath it all, I could hear something else. Breathing. heavy, labored, too close to the door. I reached for the handle, paused. Then I knocked. The voices stopped instantly. Dead silence. Then something moved toward the door. Not footsteps, sliding, like flesh dragging across stone. I stepped back. The door handle turned, just slightly. I ran. I didn't stop running until I was out the front door. But the forest was too dark. I couldn't find the road again. Everything looked different, too quiet, too close. I turned around. The church lights were on. Every window glowing with yellow light. But I'd just been inside. There were no working bulbs, no switches, no power. Still, the glow was there, and shadows too. Silhouettes, figures moving in the windows. I should have kept running. I know that now. But some part of me thought, maybe it's okay. Maybe I imagined it. Maybe someone's here who can help. So I went back. I stepped onto the porch. The door was wide open. Inside, the pews were full. People sat, heads bowed, hands folded. No movement, no sound. Dozens of them, all facing the altar. I took one step in. No one turned. Not one breath. I stepped closer. The figures weren't real. They were mannequins, old, cracked, dressed in plain black clothes like choir robes, faces painted on, some faded, some peeling. But they sat perfectly still, facing forward, hands joined in prayer. At the front, where a priest might stand, there was no podium, just a simple wooden chair. Empty. Then the chanting began again. I turned around, fast. All the mannequins were still facing forward, still seated. But the voice was real, surrounding me. And this time, I could understand it. Sit. One word, from nowhere, from everywhere. Join. I backed toward the aisle, but now there was something in the chair. A figure, motionless, head down. I blinked, and it stood, very tall, dressed in black, a face I couldn't make out. That it spoke again, not out loud, but in my mind. Every church needs a congregation. My legs stopped working. I collapsed into the nearest pew. My hands folded on their own. I tried to scream, but my jaw clenched shut. The light dimmed. My body cooled. And in front of me, the chanting continued. The figure walked slowly down the aisle, past every mannequin, and paused in front of me. That it smiled. I woke up in my car. Middle of the road. Engine cold. Phone dead. No sign of the church. I drove for hours until I reached a gas station. Asked them if they knew Saint Evangelines. The clerk just stared at me. "There's no church out there," he said. "Hasn't been for 50 years. White wood, tall steeple, big clearing," I insisted. He shook his head. "Burned down, lightning strike, they say. Everyone inside, gone." Sometimes when I close my eyes, I see that chair, empty, waiting, and I feel my hands fold on their own, like I'm still sitting there, and I never really left.